Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today I'm bringing you my top 10 worst ships in World of Warships. These are both premium ships and tech line ships. Now, of course, is everyone going to agree with me on these ships? Absolutely not. Some of you guys I know have told me that you like these particular ships, and that is fine. We all have different opinions. These are just ships that either when I played them or I bought them and I played them, they didn't really click with me, or there are some ships on this list that I downright just do not like. And some of them, they've changed a bit since I grinded through them or since I've played them a lot after I purchased them through the premium store. But still, these ships are usually on the not so great list of most people who play World of Warships. And again, this is all my opinion of them, and if you disagree, that's perfectly fine with me. If we all had the same opinion, the world would be a much more boring place. Also, just a quick note, the footage that you're going to watch with each ship, it's just B-roll. I wasn't trying to do super well in most of these ships when I was filming. I was just in the game getting some shots of the ship for B-roll. So don't judge the ship too hard by the footage that you see on screen. I actually, funnily enough, actually had some pretty good pretty good games in these ships when I was recording for this video, and it was kind of like, of course, I'm making a top 10's worst ships list, and suddenly these ships are performing very well for me. It was very magical. But anyway, let's go ahead and get right into the list. So number 10, we have the French Tier 8 Premium Destroyer, Le Terrible. Now, just like I said, this ship has changed a bit since it was initially launched, and since I played it a lot. They've tried to, I think they've increased the velocity of the shells, they've increased the pin value, and one or two other tweaks to the shells, and I think the turrets too. But the thing about the Le Terrible is, yes, it is an ungodly fast ship, and it does have the reload booster consumable, so in a pinch it can magically turn into a Gearing or a Harugumo for a little bit. But still, the ship doesn't have a smokescreen, and it relies a lot on its gimmicks to do well in game. Now, I've had a couple of good games in Le Terrible, you've seen them here on the channel, and don't get me wrong, I am by no means an amazing destroyer player, but every time Le Terrible, especially in the current meta of the CV rework, you don't have a smokescreen. You can't hide from a carrier. You can run and juke all day, but at the end of the day, yes, the Le Terrible is an amazingly fast destroyer, but planes are faster and you can't escape them. I mean, unless you have a cruiser buddy to run to. But if you're out doing destroyer things and being really sneaky, like I like to do in the Le Terrible, and go all the way around, use its speed to get in behind the enemy team, or normally what I do is, when I'm in a carry game with a Le Terrible, I use its speed to, take the long way around. You guys have seen it. If you haven't, go watch one of my Le Terrible videos. I stick all the way around, go find the carriers with their pants down, melt them. That way, well, my carrier troubles are over. But it's getting harder and harder to do as more and more people are playing carriers. And again, if they spot you, it's pretty much all over, unless you do have a cruiser friend to go run to. But again, I'm also not a destroyer player, so I can't really push this thing to its maximum potential because my destroyer skills are not all there. And that is why it is number 10 on the list and not number 1. Because, again, this is my worst ships list, and I am not very good in the Le Terrible. But, again, it is mainly due to it not having a smokescreen. And it is French, so it is lightly armored. And my god, does the engine get knocked out in this thing all the time. Anyway, moving on to number 9, we have the Tier 7 American tech line battleship, the Colorado. Now, the Colorado is an interesting ship now looking back on it, because at Tier 7, every single other nation in the game is getting access to fast battleships, while the American Navy was like, no, we still want to stick with the Dreadnought style of battleship. And that's what the Colorado is. It's a big hunk of metal that is ungodly slow. Maximum speed of 20 knots. And if you put the speed flag on, you can go maybe 21.5 or 22 knots. Amazingly breakneck speeds, am I right? But you do get 16-inch guns at tier 7. You get 8 of them. They are American guns, so they're fairly accurate. And the ship itself is pretty tough. But the speed is, you're at such a disadvantage because of speed. By the time you get to a cap, either your team has either just been slaughtered, or they decide to turn around, or they've already pushed through it and you're just playing catch up. Now, on top of that, since by the time you get there, battle's pretty much over with, depending upon how good or how bad your team is, you cannot run away in this ship. You can't. Every other ship at tier 7 can keep up with you or run you down. There is no retreating in a Colorado unless you just stay in the back the entire game, which is not fun. And you can see tier 9 ships in this game. The Colorado can see the Iowa. What used to be the fastest battleship in the game before the Frenchies came out. It can see that ship in combat. And it sees it quite often sometimes, depending upon how bad matchmaking hates you for the night. And even, just not even tier 9 ships, it can see the Bismarck, which is an ungodly fast battleship at tier 8 at 32 knots. It can fight that, and it often has to fight that. And it is so infuriating grinding up through this thing when you are just so slow. And, I mean, that is this ship's biggest downside. And grinding through it is not fun. Even though, yes, you do have 16-inch guns. Yes, they are accurate. But the fact that if your team decides to abandon a push, and you're with that push, you are screwed. Now, every now and then, you'll have the courteous teammate that will stay behind and try to help you pull out of that situation. But 9 out of 10 times, they're just going to leave you in the dust, and you're going to get burned to death. The Colorado, this is the ship that made me hate destroyers and cruisers with the HE spam, because that's what happened to me so much with the Colorado. I would go with my team on a push, they would abandon it, I would have to turn around and run, and I would just get absolutely melted slowly by HE. Now, the ship doesn't have a good heal, so it is a very slow and painful death, but every now and then you might be able to escape that because of the heal and the American damage con, but more often than not, you're just going to get burned to death in it. But, God, I do not miss this ship. And again, since its biggest downside is just its speed, that is why it's number 9 on the list and not higher up. Alright, so number 8, we have the tier 9 German battleship FDG. So the FDG, she's, for all intents and purposes, a bigger Bismarck. That should be good, right? Well, it's not. Now, again, this is one of the ships where they've done some more work to it. They've improved it quite a bit. But still, at tier 9, having 8 guns on a battleship, on a German battleship with German dispersion, is so ungodly, just annoying and aggravating and painful, quite frankly, because especially in the current meta, engagement distances are being pushed out further and further and further away. When you only have 8 guns and crappy dispersion, that doesn't go very well. Now, the FDG is very good at brawling. It's fast, the turrets turn quite fast, and they have improved the dispersion, and they have improved the pins on the AP shells on the main-inch guns. But it's still not that accurate at range. It's German. You guys know what German battleships look like and how they perform at range. That they don't, unless it's the only German battleship that's, well, there's 2 German battleships that's good at range, and that is the Prince Eitel Friedrich and the Grosser Kurfürst. The Grosser Kurfürst is good at range because it has 12 guns. You can throw 12 shells at a target, and 1 or 2 will probably hit. And yes, I did say 1 or 2 because that's about all you're going to get at about 16-ish kilometers out. Every now and then, Orange Jesus will bless you with a glorious salvo, and you will smack the crap out of whoever you're fighting. But with FDG, you will get a good salvo out of it every now and then. But it just always feels like Orange Jesus is screwing you over, and the shells fall, either on one side of the ship or behind it, and it's incredibly infuriating. And in the current meta, it does not perform well. You'll struggle to do about 90,000 damage a game, especially if it's a carrier game. In the current meta, the teams just stay so far back until the last 5 minutes of the game, and you have to try and survive that in a German battleship with carriers who know you're a big target, your AA isn't that great, and they're gonna go after you. So the goal is to survive the carrier onslaught until the last 5 or so minutes of the game. Then the ship will do okay, but most of the time you're going to be targeted early on because you're a big, fat, juicy German battleship, and most ships know you can't retaliate at range, and you're going to get burned to death again. Now, again, they have improved it so much more than when I grinded through it the first time. So it was a better ship than it was back then, but still, it feels really lacking, and I still think they need to do more work on it. Okay, moving on to number 7, we have the Tier 8 Premium Italian battleship, Roma. Now, Roma is a love-hate relationship for me. I love the ship itself, the hull, like its speed, its concealment, its armor, its rudder shift time, fantastic. The guns, not so much. You get 9 15-inch guns, and these guns are incredibly fast. The velocity on them is amazing, which means at range you can get some really good pins. The problem is hitting anything past 10 kilometers. And I'm not exaggerating. Even within 10 kilometers, hitting stuff is sometimes sketchy. And because of the velocity of the guns, when you do hit stuff at range, it's just overpins, unless it's a battleship. Cruisers, aircraft carriers, and, well, of course, destroyers. And even some battleships, like the French battleships, you can still get overpins on them at range. And it's aggravating because the dispersion is so crappy. At range, you're only going to get 1 or 2 hits. And when you do get those hits, it's overpins. This is, again, a ship's extremely specialized at fighting battleships at close range. Anything else? Okay, and maybe some heavily armored cruisers like some of the higher tier German cruisers. But anything else, it's going to overpin the crap out of it. And it is so inaccurate. If you guys have played the Roma, seen videos of the Roma, the guns are it's an absolute shotgun. And it's, again, the meta where the engagement range is being pushed further and further out, despite Wargaming saying they want, battleships to push in, but it's so hard for battleships to push in because we get nuked by carriers or melted by Harugamos and Musas now, and that's another video for another day. But again, this is a ship that I want to love so much, but the guns just fall so short of performing well. Now, and again, I do have the occasional good game in this ship when I stumble upon a couple of battleships at close range, but most of the time, you're just cursing as the shells miss or overpin your target. And it is so annoying, too, because you will hit the citadel of a cruiser, and it will just overpin. And it's so painful when that happens, especially in the Roma, because for the guns to hit the citadel of a cruiser at range, you got to be blessed by RNGesus, and then you just whiff it with an overpin. Extremely infuriating there. Alright, moving on to number 6, we have the Tier 6 American cruiser, Pensacola. Alright, now moving on to number 5, we have the Tier 9 Premium Japanese battleship, Musashi. Now, the Musashi, especially in this CV rework era, is totally not worth it to me. For those of you that don't know, the Musashi, it's a down-tiered Yamato that they ripped all the AA off of, and it's in its original, I think, 1940, 1939, whenever the ship was first launched. It's in that era configuration, which means it has barely any AA. It does have some pretty big secondaries. I think they're 155s or 152 millimeter secondary guns. But it's a Yami without any AA. It sits a bit higher up in the water because it doesn't have that mountain of AA on either side of the superstructure. And that should be pretty self-explanatory right now. You get in a carrier game in this thing, the carrier's coming for you because they know you have no AA. And on top of that, the guns aren't as accurate as the Yami guns. And the whole point of this, the selling point of this ship is that it's a tier 9. So you can get tier 7 games and laugh as you delete everything because you have 18.1-inch guns. In reality, anyone who has played tier 9 to any extent knows you get up to tier 10 9 out of 10 games. And yes, occasionally you will get a tier 7 game in Yami. And yes, you will laugh as you delete everything off the face of the map because yes, you do have 18-inch guns. But the thing is, even tier 7 carriers can still ruin your day in the Musashi because you have no AA. And what's the point of paying either in coal or just paying money outright, because you can get this ship for free XP. Although no, you can't get it for free XP because it's gone now. You can get it for coal now. So what's the point of saving up all that coal for a down-tiered Yami with no AA? When even the Yami, even after the little AA buff that it got recently, it still struggles against carriers against the tier 10. Why not get the Yami who at least has a chance against carriers? And, waste your coal on the Musashi. I don't see the point of it. And, I mean, of course, you do have 18.1-inch guns, so yes, you will be bringing in a lot of damage. But the trick is, of course, surviving carrier games. And yes, it does have a big health pool, it does have good torpedo protection, but carriers can still have their way with you and just farm damage off of you and eventually be your demise. Unless you just have a Wusta or a Minotaur to chill with the entire time. But again, Musashi, I do not think it's worth it. Alright, so moving on to number 4, we have the Tier 8 French battleship Richelieu. Now, the Richelieu is quite interesting because you have 8 15-inch guns, all 4 of the superstructure. So you can bow tank for days with it. But these 18-inch guns, these 15-inch guns, are not very accurate. Their dispersion is quite bad, to say the least. But from close range, the dispersion doesn't really matter. So, like, they're 14 kilometers in, it really doesn't matter. But the thing is, again, like with the Roma, these 15-inch guns, they are French 15-inch guns, which means their velocity is quite good. So while at range, you can pin battleships pretty decently if the shells do hit. Close in against, and close in, I mean like 15 kilometers. Against cruisers, you're going to overpin them, and it's aggravating, again, because they'll be sitting there throwing HE in your face, setting you on fire, you'll catch them broadside, shoot them, and whiff them with mostly overpins. And it's infuriating, to say the least. But the ship does have a pretty decent AA, so it is not the worst ship to be using in this current era of CVs. But again, just that, it's the combination of crappy dispersion and overpinning everything at range except for battleships. It's that combo that really just I do not like. The Richelieu, while it is the Jean Bar, I do like because the dispersion is better, and you do have the reload booster. That's the Jean Bar. That's the Richelieu. That's why once I got the Jean Bar, I never played the Richelieu again because why would I when it's a better Richelieu? Okay, moving on to number 3, we have the Tier 7 Premium British Battleship Duke of York. Now, Duke of York is a King George V class battleship, and I do like the King George V class in the British tech line. It's one of the few British battleships that I actually like. But it's a weaker King George V class of battleship. You get one less hill, and the turrets rotate slower, the reload's longer. It has hydro acoustic search, but I still think the King George is just a better ship. So it's kind of like, why get this ship when the King George is better? I don't know. Now, again, some of you guys have said you love the Duke of York, and great. If you're doing well with the ship, more power to you. I just don't like it as much as the King George. I think the King George is a superior ship. And again, just like with the Musashi, when the tech line ship is better, why pay for the premium version of it? I know the better income and such, but I just don't see why. And again, if you love the Duke of York, and I know I'm repeating this because several of you have told me that you do like the Duke of York. That's great. You're doing great in it. That's amazing. I'm glad the ship's working for you. It just doesn't work for me. I'm sorry. That's my opinion. Okay, moving on to number 2. We have the Tier 9 Tech Line Japanese battleship. You guys knew this was coming. The Izumo. Yeah. The drunk Japanese version of the Nelson. Guns are not accurate. Although, again, this has been improved since I grinded through the Izumo. The guns are not that accurate. The pins are actually good now. And my main issue with the Izumo now that they've worked on the guns is the sheer amount. I mean, look at this thing. It's freaking huge. Look at all that deck space. You will get HE spammed to hell and back in this thing. And you catch fire after fire after fire because you have so much deck space for all that HE to land. You don't actually have that much superstructure on the ship. So that's a plus at least. But it's kind of offset by the fact that the ship is so huge and you just eat HE all day. Now, the secondaries too. The Izumo actually has pretty good secondaries. The problem is you barely will be able to use them because none of them can fire forward, and I'm not joking, none of these secondaries can shoot forward when the Izumo's at its strongest because all the guns are in front of the superstructure, so you should be bow tanking in it. And none of the secondaries can shoot forward. It is annoying to say the least. Now, the AA is actually pretty good when it's intact. It does actually have decent AA with the sea hull and with an AA build on it. But that AA is not going to stay intact for long because most people, when they see an Izumo, especially cruiser players, they know what to do. They're going to spam HE at you till you disintegrate. And actually just have pretty dang good belt armor, so you can stay angled and get that third turret on target. Now, the downside is that third turret, if you want to switch sides, it's got to take the long way around. Because the way they situated it, with the guns facing toward the superstructure, it has to rotate just almost 360 degrees to get on target on the other side. And that's why I like the Nelson and the Lenin better, because that third turret doesn't have to do that. And I don't know why Wargaming went with this design of the whatever design number this is, because I believe there's actually a version with the turret facing forward, like, you know, the Nelson and the Lenin, and Wargaming went with this one for some reason. But Izumo, the Death Cucumber, don't like it. I hated grinding through it. Still, even though after they've worked on it, don't grind through it. Save with the free XP. Go straight from Amagi to Yami. Save yourself some pain. Finally, number 1. You guys probably know what this ship is already. The Tier 9 Premium Japanese Super Cruiser Azuma. Yes, the Azuma. This is a Tier 9 Premium, so either costs a lot of money or coal, or whatever premium currency is worth in the arsenal. It is joyless, to say the least, to me. Because in order to do well in this ship, you have to hang back and just sling HE. The HE on the ship hits hard, don't get me wrong. The HE hits hard. The guns are good. The problem is the armor. You cannot tank anything except for like Neptune rounds or Minotaur rounds. Destroyers can Citadel you. It is such a boring ship to play for me. Because yes, every now and then I can get it in close. And don't get me wrong, if you catch like a cruiser broadside with the AP on this thing, you're gonna wipe them off the face of the map. But the problem is with the armor, you have to stay in the rear, you have to stay moving, and you normally have to stay HE spamming, which again, I don't like that playstyle. I really do not. And when you're coming off of the off of the Kronstadt and the Alaska, who, you know, Alaska has decent armor. It's not all that fantastic, but Alaska can get in medium range. Kronstadt can get in pretty close because its armor in most places is pretty decent. Not everywhere. In most places it's decent, so you can get in close in the Kronstadt. The Azuma, it can't even compete with the Alaska or the Kronstadt. And on top of just the armor, there's no way for you to detect anything in the Azuma. You don't get a catapult plane. You don't get radar. You don't get hydro with it. So there's no way to detect anything at all. and that's a big disadvantage, especially when the Alaska and Kronstadt have radar. I don't understand why they just can't give it a... Well, it doesn't matter because catapult planes can't spot anything anymore. But yeah, I don't like this ship, and I really feel it's not worth the money. Now, the Yoshino, the tier 10 version of this ship, might be a bit better. Just because I think it has better armor and it has torpedoes too and better secondaries and all that jazz. But as of right now, Azuma, totally not worth it. Its citadel is way too high up out the water for comfort. It is way too under armored for comfort. Like, anything with large guns looks at you, you're getting citadeled, or if not citadeled, you're getting pinned hard. Because it's not enjoyable to play for me. Even though I do have the occasional decent game in it, in order to do decent, I have to sit back and just sling HE at everything. And, yep, do not like. And I would not recommend you spend your money on it. Unless you like that, sitting in the back and slinging HE playstyle, then you probably would enjoy this. But I don't. And this is my list, in my opinion. Alright, guys, thanks for watching. I know this video is a bit longer, but I had a nice little rant for most of these ships. So I hope you enjoyed listening to me complain about these ships. And again, this is all my opinion. If yours doesn't line up with this, that's fine. Let me know in the comments down below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? What's your worst ships in the game, in your opinion? And again, some of these ships aren't terrible. I just don't like them. And again, I know I'm saying this a lot. It's my opinion. It's all my opinion. But thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. We're on our way to 2,500 subscribers. We are under 400 away from that goal. We've gotten to over 2,100 subs, and I thank you guys for that. Also, make sure you join the Discord. Link is in the description down below. I hope you guys are having a wonderful Monday, and I also hope to catch you guys in the next one.